and got my left foot amputated. So I have all of my leg except for my foot. So it literally stops where your ankle would probably be.
Okay. Delaney Kirby.
Hi.
Okay, awesome. So if you could have a dinner, lunch conversation with anybody, dead or alive, actually, you know what? I'm going to do a different one.
Okay.
I'm going to swing you a different one. What is your spirit animal and why?
Oh, my spirit animal. Oh God.
Or favorite animal?
Favorite animal or spirit animal? We're gonna go with. You know, I had an animal that popped in my head, and then I forgot it. We'll go with elephant. Don't know why, but I think it'd be really fun to ride one of those one day.
In Thailand?
Yes, genuinely. Like, they're so big and their ears are like, they're huge.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be a little scary though because they are massive.
Right, and I'm pretty tiny, so that might not happen one day, but that would still be kind of fun.
It's awesome that you say that because our boss here, his favorite animal is elephants.
Really?
Dude.
Why?
Elephants. I have no. I need to ask him actually because originally this room was going to be an elephant room. Like there was going to be like paintings and stuff of elephants, and there's going to be like another office like that. And I was like, why elephants, man? So I need to ask him. I'm actually going to have him on the podcast one day. I'll probably ask him that day and hear what the heck
he's talking
an
about,
elephant.
Right?
He's so obsessed with it. But okay, awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you do now. I was seeing obviously on your Instagram and stuff, the Nubbability.
Yes,
or
Nubbability
that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that and what do you do with that?
Okay, so Nubbability is a nonprofit. It's based in Illinois. And the founder of camp like grew up there and everything, and so that's where he like wants it. That's where like it's so cool because the whole town like comes together to like put on this like camp.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's so fun.
Oh, wow.
Like,
is it because it's so small
yes,
that everyone's like,
it's
this
that
is our
small.
thing that we believe in?
Yes, it's
That's
really
cool. It's like football here in Texas,
right? Yes. So basically,
but with a better purpose.
Yeah. I mean, football can serve a pretty good purpose, but yeah. So the whole town basically comes together, helps put on this camp, and it's also so small. Like that town is so small too, where the hotels like end up filling up because you know, like there's not that many, and so we have like host homes that the coaches stay in, and so the house that I stayed in this past summer, well, I guess the past 2 summers I've been there. She had like over, I don't even know, like 20 of us in her house, like 25, and like from
in one house.
In one house, yeah. And she's the sweetest lady. Like, she made us breakfast every morning. Like, made
25 of you made you breakfast.
Yes.
That's a lot of eggs.
Oh, I know. It was, yeah. So, so the whole town just comes together and helps put on this camp. And it's basically for all limb different kids, and like their siblings can come as well to help participate. So yeah, we help teach them anything about different sports they want to be a part of, and they pick like a focus sport, which is the main sport that they go to during like the focus sessions, and then they have open ones where they can go to like whatever sport they want. So just to
learn
go
other
try
things.
Yeah,
wow,
it's so cool. And we have a lot of people that go to lacrosse because lacrosse isn't super common in my opinion. Yeah. So they like to go and see what all it is and stuff like that. I've helped like play, and it's kind of hard, but like really fun to get used to. So yeah.
You don't hear about lacrosse a lot. It's like,
especially in Texas.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's baseball and football.
Right?
That's it.
Yeah,
no other sport exists.
Exactly.
Literally. So in that program, do you guys do a lot of like is it to help like kids learn how to move, or they already are like moving and active, and you're just teaching them how to capitalize on sports, or what exactly is the main goal in that?
Yeah. So it can be both. Like you can be super advanced and sign up for, like let's say you've already played basketball for some odd years and you go to camp and you do like your focus sport is basketball. Like you can be that way, or you can be super brand new and be like 4 years old and just going to go.
Yeah.
So basically you can do either or, which is really cool because the coaches are able to help out with either of those situations. Because most of our kids already play the sport and they're wanting to, you know, be more adaptive in it, I guess. So for cheerleading, if you only have one arm and you're trying to learn how to do a cartwheel, and let's say like your tumbling coach back home isn't giving you the proper like ways of, you know, being able to do one.
Yeah, because they probably have no idea what it's like to only have one arm.
They have no clue. And which is really sad because I've heard some of my girls, because I coach cheerleading and cheer and tumble at camp. And so I've heard some of my girls who have been like, well, my coach like doesn't really let me do much. And like, I kind of just have to go sit. And I'm like, are you serious? Yeah. It's so sad. So
they limit them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like not what we're about at all. Like not about the limitations. Like there are none. So
do they have a program in schools where you could like if you wanted to, you could become a coach and assist if there is a kid that, you know, is missing like a foot, kind of like you are, you know? Do they have programs like that or no? Do you think they will eventually?
I doubt it. I really doubt it. I feel like there wouldn't be that much of a need to like do that, even though that'd be really cool. I feel like there's not much of a need to like support that.
I feel like that's so discouraging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if that happened to me and I wanted to play something, like I guess you almost feel like maybe walking through that journey, like, oh, I can't play sports.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and you're figuring out on your own too, because I mean, when I was little, I thought I was the only amputee like in Texas, even though I know that wasn't true, because going to Scottish Rite, the hospital that I got my first leg at, and, you know, years until I turned 18, like, and seeing other kids there, like, I knew that wasn't true, but that's the only thing that I thought of. And talking to other coaches at that camp, like that's normally the things that they talk about too, is how they thought they were the only ones when they were growing up. And that's honestly part of our reasoning too for like supporting camp so much and like just getting the word out there and trying to get more kids, is for them to come, not only for the sport that they're coming for, but also for those relationships and friendships, and really just us pouring into them and telling them like, hey, like you're not alone in this journey at all. Like I know you might think you are, but you're not at all. So that's like another big like thing that we try to get across at camp too.
That's huge for kids.
Yeah.
That's huge for people. Like almost every single episode that I've done on this podcast, everything that they talk about, they feel like they're the only ones. And then everything changes when they talk to someone about it.
That's
literally,
what I'm saying.
like Cameron's. You heard Cameron's? She was like, whenever my family came and talked to me about it and said, are you dealing with this? And I finally opened up. That's when the journey to healing happened.
Right.
Same thing. I had another buddy who also struggled with an eating disorder, and his episode will air later on. But he said the same thing. He was like, you know, like I went to talk to my family, and that's when the healing process started. Like it's weird because you feel like you're isolated. You feel like it's only you, like you're taking on the world. That's also one of the reasons why I started this, because I'm like, dude, nobody is walking through anything alone.
Nothing.
Like you are unique in your own way, but you are not unique in struggle.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
that's so true.
Like period. Because I'm like, I know I'm not the only one that struggles with this. I know people aren't the only ones that struggle with it, you know? So that's why I give people the opportunity to come in here and share, so other people just know like, wow, they're just encouraged simply by the fact of them hearing that I'm not the only one kind of thing.
It's such a big thing. And like vulnerability is such a big thing too, because it takes you to be vulnerable in order to get to that spot. And that's so hard for people to do. Yeah. So hard.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm struggling with it. Not struggling with it, but I'm like dealing with a lot of vulnerability right now, like knowing, because I'm about to film my personal episode. Okay, yeah. So it's going to be my story. Yeah. And I'm like, woo, bro. That's cool. Like, and I'm like, I'm going to be like vulnerable. And I'm like, taking deep, I'm like driving and thinking about it. I'm like taking deep breaths. I'm like, oh man, like, but that's That's true. Vulnerability is like there's power in that.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
power. That's how
Sure.
people are able to connect and whatnot.
Yeah.
But okay, that's awesome. So you obviously are doing something that's like creating a lot of change and encouraging a lot of kids and
Thank you.
helping them. So what was that journey for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So I'll just start like from the very beginning,
Yeah.
like how I lost my leg and everything. So I was born 24 weeks premature. I was actually a surviving triplet. Basically what happened was, my mom ended up getting super sick from just some infection, and it got into my like birth sac first. And after that, she had to go into like full term labor because she ended up getting like super sick. So basically, they rushed her and my dad to the emergency C-section room and got us out. And my mom couldn't see us for a long time because she was like fighting off this infection. And side note, she like sometimes she'll talk to me and like she'll like blame herself for getting that infection and like ultimately causing everything that happened to happen. And I'm like, no, like that's not it. Like,
yeah, come on, Mom.
Right? And I'm like, no. But that's very rare that she thinks that, because ultimately who I am and like what shaped me is this whole story.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right? Good stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, so I was born and then both my brothers were born. Not Kaylee, that was my sister. So my sister passed away a year before we were born. So my parents already walked through that. And then now they have about to have 3 kids, and all at the same time, which is overwhelming in itself. And then having them born 24 weeks premature out of a 48-week pregnancy. So that's about 3.5 months time frame early, which is such a crucial point in the developing period.
It's huge. Yeah. It's huge. Were your parents Christians at this time already?
Yes.
They were already believers?
Yes.
I don't know why this thought popped into my mind, because when you were like, that we had just lost my sister and now they were expecting 3 at one time, like they were probably believing like this is God redeeming.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then walking through what they're about to walk through, like,
I'm sure it was such a test of faith.
Yeah, like I just can't imagine. I really want to do a podcast with your parents.
That'd be so cool.
Because that's insane.
We're going to dinner after this, and I'll tell them, because I want to see if they're going to be like, or if they'll be like, yeah, that'd be cool. So that'd be so cool.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, you're good. So basically, I don't know if I said my brother's names, Kenyon and Preston. Also, side note, I want to somehow name all my kids after them, like Kaylee, Kenyon, and Preston. Middle names, first names, whatever.
That's awesome.
I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we were all rushed to the NICU, and basically poked, prodded, needled, hooked up to like everything you can possibly think of. My mom, they took her to go get better. My dad, I don't know what he was doing, probably going with my mom. I don't know. And so basically after that, we were just trying to survive, like ultimately off of where we were supposed to be somewhere like comfortable and like, warm, and where you're supposed to actually develop. We were trying to do it outside of the womb. And that's like so hard for like such a tiny like body. Like when I was born, I was the size of my dad's hand. Jeez, literally. Like my whole like hand would wrap around like his like pinky finger.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. Golly. Crazy. Yeah. So basically after that, both my brothers ended up passing away. I'm not sure why, but I did learn in one of my classes that boy premature babies have a less survival rate than girls.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know. That's such a good question, but I don't know. Yeah. So both of them ended up passing away, and then it was just me. And like I was just surviving for my life as well and trying super hard. And like they thought I was going to be blind. They thought I was going to have all these different things wrong with me. Yeah,
because when you're that premature, you're so susceptible to everything.
To everything. Yeah. So basically 10 days after we were born, I got an infection in my left leg from the umbilical catheter that I was hooked up to. And basically I turned my whole leg black, purple, like cold as ice, like everything. I was
Just suck the
losing,
blood out
yeah,
of
I
it.
was losing oxygen, blood flow, everything. And so
Gosh.
like all the doctors were like surrounding me, like trying to get all the blood flow back. And they ended up getting it back into every area except for my foot. And so they called my dad, and my dad like rushed over there because my mom still couldn't see me really at this point.
Yeah.
And so my dad came over there, and they wrapped it up, my foot up in a blanket, and they opened it, and my dad was like, that is literally as black as coal. Like, that's not coming back.
Yeah.
And they were like, I know. Like, that's why we called you over here. Like, we need your permission to amputate, like, right now. And he was like, okay, like, go.
Yeah.
Like, go for
It's
it.
like no brainer after
Exactly.
just losing his two boys. And
Right.
he's like, and then before that, your sister, it's
Right.
like, whatever you need to do,
do it.
like, we're saving my little girl.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wow.
from then on, they rushed me literally from that point to surgery and got my left foot amputated. So I have all of my leg except for my foot. So it literally stops where your ankle would probably be.
Yeah.
So
Dang, that's
Yeah.
insane. And then,
it's like the start.
yeah, and then after that, you were pretty much in the clear, like
Yeah, I just
smooth
started
sailing.
getting better after that slowly. I want to say I was in the hospital for like 4 months, something like that in the NICU.
Well, which is pretty typical for a premature baby.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as a kid, how did that? You were kind of telling me a little bit about when you were 1,
Right.
you started running like or walking without your
it.
foot.
Yeah. And my parents were like, okay, we got to take her to go get a prosthetic like now. And so I got casted for my first prosthetic when I was 1, started walking on it when I was 1. So, you know, some amputees when, I still hate that word, limb different people. When some of them like lose their legs older in life and they have to learn how to walk on a prosthetic, it's super hard to get used to. But for me, since like that's all I've ever known, like I don't know what it's like to walk without one. So it's weird how like from being like used to it for so long and like other people who, you know, have to get used to it. It's so weird that there's like such a big difference in that.
Yeah. In like learning how to do it. Also, like as a kid, you didn't know any different.
No.
So
Yeah,
that was just
my normal.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
I don't ever remember like having 2 feet. I know I had them, but I don't ever remember having 2 feet.
Did you ever have to go through like, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because it may be sensitive. I don't know. But did you ever go through like a point where you felt different because somebody else made you feel different as a kid?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
All the time. Yeah. And it's not even like kids were doing it on purpose, because this is more in like the elementary type phase
where they have no filter.
Right. Yes.
Kids literally have no filter.
Probably like, and I don't really remember much about like before elementary school, just because I feel like it really didn't hit me, because that's how I've always been. And kids were like so used to it at like the kindergarten and preschool and everything like that I went to. So it was just so normal to everyone. And then going into elementary school and going to a new school for sure. And then having kids ask me questions around elementary school is where I started getting super conscious about it and like more aware, I guess. Because since I was born with it, basically, I was like, this is how I am. Like, I don't really see a difference. But when you grow up, you start to like figure yourself out more. So I was starting to like be more aware of it. And like, that's kind of where it all started. Just trying to figure out, you know, who I was and all that stuff, and not getting super like down about it, because people would ask me questions all the time, and like now that doesn't bother me. But when I was in elementary school, maybe like a year of middle school, it would still bother me. I was like, another person asking a question, like another question I have to answer, another person staring at me, like all that kind of stuff.
And it's because they're asking about that. It's not like they're just like hanging out. It's like specifically focusing on that.
And I think when I was younger, I kind of wanted people to see me more as a person than as like my limb difference. And I felt like that's like the only thing that other people were like focusing on, and not necessarily like close friends that I'm talking about. Like, because all my close friends, like, they were fine with it. Like, they met me on the first day and they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, let's go. And so it's more like random people that, so my brother played baseball like all growing up. And so I would always go to his baseball games. I'd go run play on the playground with like my little girlfriends that their brothers also played baseball on the team. And so it was normally just like random kids who would just kind of like also be there and like come up to me and ask me like 5,000 questions, and I'm like, I'm just here to swing on the swing. Like,
like just let me do my thing, bro.
Exactly. Like let me live my life. And they weren't doing it, so that would get to me like the most than like closer friends would. So
yeah. And then going through like high school, did you struggle with any of that, or at that point were you already pretty like solid?
I would say like probably half and half, like 50-50.
Like there was moments,
right? Yeah. And there's still moments. I don't think it will ever necessarily like leave, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I remember this one time I was in Walmart, and I don't remember how old I was, maybe like 10 or 11, maybe. And so we were walking through Walmart, and I was so used to kids staring at me at this point. It didn't even faze me. I was like, okay, stare if you want to, it's fine. But I remember I was walking, and this older gentleman, like maybe like 50-ish, like legit was staring. Like I walked past him, and he turned and looked like this and just kept following me with his eyes. And that was the one moment that I was like, excuse me, like, what are you doing? And that kind of like hit harder, I guess, because it was an older person. And I'm not sure why. Maybe just because older people normally would just like walk past me, not like think anything of it, because they're trying to be polite, or it doesn't faze them, or they're just not super curious, because kids are super curious. So of course they're gonna ask 1,000 questions. But older people, they're normally not as curious as kids.
No,
so
we're just dumb.
Right. So that definitely like hit hard. And I'm like, I don't really remember much about like how I dealt with it. I just remember that specific moment.
It hit hard as in like it affected you, like made you sad?
Yeah,
or?
it really like made me like not necessarily sad in a sense, but maybe more of like made me question like why I was created the way that I was, I guess, in a sense. Like if I were trying to find like the main pinpoint, it would probably be that. In elementary school, like I said, I was trying to figure out, who I was essentially already. And I mean, I feel like you always are trying to figure that out as you grow older. But yeah, so that was hard, but I got through it. Like I would always talk to my parents about it if I ever felt super down about it or anything. And they would always like bring me back to the Lord, bring me back to like why I was created the way I was, like everything like that, which is really cool because being born into the Christian faith like has helped so much like shape why I was created, why I was created the way that I was. Because I don't think without that I would feel like I had really like a purpose in it.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because a lot of people would be like, they would say that took away their purpose. You know what I mean? Like my defect is ruining my life. And you're saying
I don't see that at all.
Exactly. You're like, first of all, that's not my defect. That's actually pushed me into my purpose.
Right, exactly. And it's like also shaped so much about how I think, like how I think about the world, how I like tackle different things. Like let's say I have like a super hard test or something, and I've overcame so much, like I can get through that, or whatever it may be in life. And I think that's really like a good like mindset to have, because when you have a limb difference, like it can either like define you, or you can let it, you can try to figure out your purpose through it and stuff like that. Or you can like let it hold you back. And it's hard to get to that point. But I think just having the mindset that I've already been created to have, and then having like the parents that I have, and just like always rooting me in God and like the faith and like what He's done for me and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely helped shape my mindset on how like walking through those tough areas when I was like little, trying to like overcome different people staring at me and all that stuff. So
So you said it's kind of tough to get there. So you just said. So what did you do to get there, or what that look like? You know what I mean? To get to that mindset, what was some of your battles that you fought? Because I'm assuming most of them were mentally, but you probably most likely had some physically.
Oh yeah, for sure.
In high school, did you want to be a cheerleader and you know what I mean?
Yeah. So mentally, probably just taking it day by day. Because I want to say I'm sure not a person would ask me a question about my every day when I was growing up, but it was very recent, very common, especially with random people, things like that. And it would used to bother me a lot, but I coped with it a lot by humor and finding it to be funny in a sense. I think that was the one thing that really made me go from not necessarily having a negative mindset, because I never had a negative mindset about it. But going from, I guess, that one instance in Walmart with that guy and kind of just trying to refigure out, why I was created, and then, figuring that out with the help of my parents and just taking it day by day, and then adding humor into the mix helped. I remember growing up when me and my friends would go play on the playground when my brother was playing baseball, when all those kids would come up to us, sometimes I would answer and tell them really what happened, because normally their question was oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And when you hear that multiple times, and especially being young, you're oh, I'm so tired of telling you.
It's time to get creative.
Exactly.
I fought a tiger and it bit it off.
Right. I've told people I didn't eat my vegetables and my leg just fell off. I've told people that I was just sitting in the car with my window or with my foot out, and the window rolled up and fell off.
Oh my word.
I've told people that I'm half Barbie, and little girls love that one. When I'm working with the kids that I work with 2 and 3 year olds and 4 and 5 year olds, and so when sometimes when they ask me questions, I'll tell them, oh, I'm half Barbie. They love that one. They think
amazing.
That's so cool. And then my friends would always randomly tell people stories. I don't even know what they would say, because sometimes I would be kind of far off because I didn't really want to deal with that. So my friends, I had some really good friends. I still do. But they would always go up there and they would tell them fake stories. I remember I told this one girl I was bit by a shark, and she believed me. 100% believed me. For I want to say the rest of that day, and I finally had to go tell her. I was
I just need you to know.
And she was telling other people, and I was that's not it.
You could have gotten such a cool nickname Shark Bait.
Right? Exactly.
Finding Nemo.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, finding humor in it definitely helped a lot.
Boy, if I was your friend back then, I would have made some dope stories. I'm just saying, I would have came up with some cool, and people would have been she's a beast.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, that's probably how I overcame it mentally. And then physically, so I grew up playing soccer. I started playing soccer when I was 3. Well, define playing. I would sit in the middle of the field, and my dad was a referee at the time, and so I would just sit in the middle of the field and cry.
And he was Delaney, get
exactly.
up.
He's go, run around, you 3, do something. But I think after that, when I turned 4, I started actually playing. So I played soccer my whole life, basically, until I graduated high school. I played throughout middle school and high school and everything like that. And then I added cheerleading in the mix when I was in middle school. So soccer was amazing. I think it was a way for me to really just find my purpose again. In a new light, in a new sense. I'm good at this. This isn't going to stop me. Nothing's going to stop me, but especially this sport where you use your feet, definitely not going to stop me.
It's cool that the part that you were missing, you were using the most. Literally.
Exactly. You don't use your hands in soccer.
At all. You're what? I have both hands. I can't use them? Come on now. But you killed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun too. It was a good way to for me to just go be me. And it was so good. So added soccer in the mix, and so at the time I had a really standard prosthetic, and it just looked like it had a calf and everything, and it came up over my knees, the little. I'll send you a picture so you can see.
Yeah.
And basically it was just super standard, and because my real leg is super far, because it stops at my ankle, and because it's so far, they only have so much leeway that they can fit a foot under here. And stuff you don't think about when you think of making a leg. You're like, oh, that's so easy, but there's so much like, behind the scenes things that you don't think about. And so basically I had to have like the super like standard basic one that like, just like existed. It didn't give me like any bounce, no nothing. And so, I mean, I was running on that and I didn't know any different because like that's what I first like walked on, like that was what I was used to. And so and that would like cause like blisters and everything just from like running on it and like I had these gel liners and stuff like that, like just kind of older standard equipment. And so that would cause like physical, like, not damage, but just pain.
And was that frustrating? Like,
oh yeah,
those little details where you're like, because of this stuff's like, I have to deal with this.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was more frustrating at the beginning when it first started happening, because in my mind I was like, well, if I didn't have this, then I wouldn't have like a blister or whatever it may be.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it's deep, man.
Yeah.
So basically. That happened at the beginning, and now I'm super used to it, and I know like exactly what I need to do to take care of it. And I mean, there's still been times where I've like thought of that, because so I really like spin classes, and I've always wanted to try like go like for every day for like a week and just like see like if you're super sore or whatever it may be. I don't ask me why. I really enjoy that. I don't know why.
Just like
some
a
people
challenge.
think I'm crazy.
It's like your parents said, you're a fighter.
I am.
So you're constantly looking for a challenge.
Especially on that spin bike, I'm going. So I remember I went to 2 classes in a row and I got a really bad blister on my leg. And I was like, well, obviously I can't do a full week. Like I didn't like pay for it or like sign up for it or anything. But that's just kind of been like what I've wanted to do. And I knew I was like, well, there's no way I can do a full week because if I went 2 days in a row and I already have like this really bad blister, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it multiple times like a week. And so that thought popped in my head again, like, well, if I didn't have this, then like that wouldn't be there. And like that was like this past summer, like recent. So
it's like constantly like you're overcoming and overcoming and overcoming.
It's crazy. And it's like less frequently, but the thoughts still cross your mind. Ask any limb-different person, the thoughts still cross their mind, no matter how old you are.
I think that's with anyone who, like, even people that struggle with addictions, it's like you're just constantly like, man, like, especially if you like kind of stumble into that thought pattern for, like you said, even just for a split second, it's just annoying because you're like, dude, like why? You
feel like you should be like so much past that, and you just think about it and you're like, well, crap,
But that's the grace of God. That's where he comes in. That's literally where he comes in, where you're like, I should be further than I am. And usually you are.
Right, you are.
You are. You're just your worst critic.
Exactly. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So throughout all of this, like, what has been the best, most valuable lesson that you've learned throughout this whole journey that you've been walking? Because now you're obviously helping all of these kids, and you're probably helping them in the way that you wish you would have gotten more specific, like hands-on help. So what has been the biggest thing that you've learned throughout this whole journey, whether it be your journey or living it with somebody, like through numbability and all of that?
I gotta think about this one. I think this might sound weird. I think like kind of like seeing, like if I were to span out of my life and like see it all set up on like a time frame, it would literally like all make sense. Like it would all go back to my story and like how I was created and like everything like that. And I think that's really cool. I don't know if this answers the question, but probably doesn't.
It's good though. It's really good. So it does answer it.
I just think that it just goes back to my story and how God created me to be perfect, like he creates everyone to be.
Yeah.
And, when you think about it that way, you're like, well, I'm literally looking at myself in the mirror, and let's say I'm looking at myself and I'm like, well, I don't like my limb difference at all. And God's literally looking down from me or down at me, and he's like, but I created you to be perfect. Like I created you in my image. Like like, how are you like saying that like about me, And
Yeah.
thinking about it from that perspective like really hits, because you're basically
Yeah.
telling God that he's not like what he is in a sense, like,
Yeah.
Um,
But those frustrations are also natural though.
yeah, that's true.
Like the frustrations are, but staying in there is what's the difference.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see like just the way that you talk, you can tell that you have constantly overcome things and
Yeah.
struggles and mindsets and specifically that like you just said, like looking at it now, it's like all of this was supposed to happen,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
to get me to
Yes.
where I am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And like the biggest ministry that you're doing is because of that. Like,
Yeah. And like, I mean, I can be walking somewhere, or let's say, so I have a running blade that I got
Yeah.
from Amputee Blade Runners, which is also an organization that I work, or not work for. I keep saying work. I don't get paid to do that. Volunteer for, and just like kind of help them out. And it's super cool. It has Texas Tech on it with like sparkles and everything. It's really fun.
That's awesome.
It's good. Like they make great quality legs. So basically, like, I mean, I could be running on campus or something. And one time I was walking to class my sophomore year, I think, and this random girl like stopped me, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen you running on campus before, and you're such an inspiration." And in my head,
That's
like
awesome.
genuinely, I was just like, I mean, all I was doing was running, but I mean, I was like, that still means a lot that I can just go run and someone like looks at me like that,
That's huge.
I know, right?
That's huge. The simple fact that you're like, oh, I just went for a run and I inspired someone. It's like, thank you, Lord.
Right?
Like,
Exactly.
that's a gift.
It's like all full circle. And
Yeah.
it's literally crazy when I like sit and think about it, like on the whole timeline thing. I'm like, holy cow. Like even with like my major and what I want to do, and like I want to teach preschool, and right now I'm volunteering at a preschool, and sometimes when I wear jeans, like it rides up a little bit on my leg, and oh my gosh, kids are so curious, like so curious. Like this one little boy laid down on my left leg, like he put his head on like my thigh, and he was just sitting there just rubbing my leg, and I didn't think it. Sorry.
No,
I didn't think
you're
it was weird or anything. Like I thought it was really sweet because he was like being like kind of protective of it, and like
Yeah.
also trying to figure it out. And they're always like, why is this one hard and this one soft? Like they always ask me so many questions. So and it's really cool because one of the moms of one of the little girls at the school that is in the classroom that I'm volunteering for, I used to go to high school with her, and she messaged me on Instagram, and she was like, my daughter is telling me like all of this amazing stuff about you, and she's like, and that was after the first day that I went there.
Wow.
She was like, she literally wants to sit by you every day. She's asking for a Barbie with a prosthetic leg. Like she thinks you're so cool. Like all this amazing stuff. And I was like, I've literally been there one day, and this little girl's already seeing me as like someone that's created differently, but using that in a positive sense, and using that as such like a light for the Lord, even if I'm not physically standing up there, like telling other people that like, God created me to be this way, they can still see it through my actions, which is like most important to me.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really, really cool because like, being able to go into teaching after I graduate and being able to have multiple 4 or 5 3-year-olds come into my classroom and just be able to, have that mindset with each and every one of them. And I think it'll be cool. Like when you think about it from their perspective, and they're like sitting there, like looking at a teacher who's created differently, and like it doesn't faze them. I think that's like, honestly, like so cool. You know?
That's incredible.
Like
dude.
I said, full circle. It's literally insane.
Literally.
It's
I'm like, dude, as you're talking, I'm feeling like so inspired.
Thank you.
And I'm like, bro, look back at your life and like let's take a look, and maybe anyone who's watching will do this too. Like look back on your life and the hardships that you faced, the things that you wish would have never happened.
Yeah.
Like those most likely brought you to the place that you're at.
Oh yeah.
So that you can do what God's planned for you to
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
Like I heard Robert Madu, I don't know if you listened to him, but he was like, God is the only person that can take a great mess and turn it into greatness.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes, that's
I'm like,
good.
bro, new tattoo.
That's
Just
awesome.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so cool to hear your story. I'm so happy I got to meet you,
Yeah.
honestly. Like
Yeah.
genuinely. Do you have anything you want to say to anyone who's viewing? Like last words, a little golden nugget.
Yeah. Basically, okay, so I get this question a lot, like from people who aren't limb different. They will see someone who's limb different and get scared of like either talking to them or like asking them what happened or whatever it may be.
And then they just make it weird.
Yeah. And they just kind of like don't really do anything about it, or they just like, staring or something. And there's nothing wrong with staring.
Don't stare, guys.
Maybe like make it a millisecond. Like I feel like it's different for everyone, and that's like kind of like my main point is that I don't care if someone comes up to me and asks me because I've been so used to it by now. But someone else might have just lost their arm or leg or whatever it may be, like a month prior to you asking, so they might not be like comfortable with it yet.
You may hit like a very, very vulnerable soft spot.
Exactly. So from that sense, like I always tell people to try, if you really want, like if you're really curious or whatever it may be, like try to get to know them as like a person first, and then like maybe that'll come naturally out of like their story or whatever it may be. Like, I don't know, it might be like a coworker or something that you're trying to like, you're just curious or whatever. Like maybe just like go to coffee with them and like get to know them. Like get to know their heart and like what they're about. Like don't just sit there and like try to like get to know their limb difference. Like get to know them.
Yeah.
So
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My last little nugget.
The mic drop. That's awesome. Well, that's going to be it, man. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Guys, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, also to the Spotify. Also share it with anybody that you think needs to hear it and just needs to be inspired, because this is an inspiring story, even for people that don't have like a limb difference. Like I said, I feel really inspired. I'm going to send this obviously to a lot of people and be like, bro, you think like you're going through stuff, like you can get through it. Listen to this girl. You know what I mean? So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. Y'all take it easy.